I am DM Zone. This is Gamers Oasis. Let's stalk the Haunted Keep. Okay, guys. So the Haunted Keep. Haunted Keep is in the Moldvay Basic Edition of Dungeons and Dragons. Came out in 1981. It was the starter dungeon that they did. We've made a lot of advancements since then. I just want to say, yes. Probably more modern day versions of the game modules are probably better done. They've had more experience than they did back then. For example, the game is only 7 years old at this point in time. Modules is a fairly new concept. To my knowledge, there's only 2 modules that are actually released from the B series. B1 and 2 had already been released, with basically the Holmes and BX idea, or like a crossing between those two, maybe a little bit of AD&D First Edition, which actually came out before BX, maybe thrown in there. So there's a little bit of experience here, but most people were very new. So keeping that in mind and realizing that we're looking at a deep look into one of the first modules that have ever come out, certainly one of the early ones. Let's be kind with our interpretation of this. I'm going to do a couple snippets real quick. So when you look at page 51 in the basic book, it talks about scenarios and that type of stuff. And one of the things I found interesting is they kind of use this for a little bit of product placement. If you were to roll a 1 for scenarios, you would come up with In Search of the Unknown, B1, or B3, Palace of the Silver Princess. If you rolled a 2, you would have Keep on the Borderlands, which is actually B2. And then you would have a 10, which is Destroying an Ancient Evil, which would be more probably the Temple of Elemental Evil. But the one we're looking at in particular is Rescuing Prisoners. So this is, in the version they have, literally they say, this scenario is based on the simple dungeon hereafter, the Haunted Keep. And that is what they refer to this dungeon as, is the Haunted Keep. So if you go on to page 52, it continues talking about the Haunted Keep. It talks about the fact that maps are drawn to a scale of 10 feet per square. Depending on the size of the dungeon, it might be 20 feet or 100 feet and that type of stuff. If you're indoors, outdoors. But when they go to the interior of the Haunted Keep, again, they make reference to that, is better at 5 or 10 foot squares so you can keep track of movement. I really prefer 5 foot squares when I'm dealing with dungeons. When it talks about the stalking the dungeon, and that's literally what we're going to be doing in this, and you'll see the image I have here from the book on this. So they have 2 different charts that basically follow the same horizontal path of monster, trap, special, empty, right? And then you have a dice roll afterwards, okay? So there's a dice roll for the result, and there's a dice roll afterwards. So when you roll a monster, when you roll a trap, and when you roll empty, there are chances of other things happening. So, for example, if you roll a monster, is there a treasure? Okay, on a 1, 2, or 3, the answer is yes. When you roll a trap, is there a treasure? The answer is on 1 or 2, yes. If the room is empty, is there what they specifically call unguarded treasure? And that is only on a 1. So those are the 2 rolls that you make, and yes, there is a difference. But no, it's not hard to follow along. Once you figure out the first one, the second one is really kind of simple. There's no special treasure on specials. That's the one thing you have to remember. Specials come with their own treasure because they are special. All right, so now looking at the wandering monster encounter you have, they've based it upon level of the dungeon. Now, they actually say there's a first, second, and third level dungeon. And I'm going to change that a little bit. That's going to be one of the changes I do that's going to be a little different. Because I don't know if I want a starting dungeon to actually have a 3rd level dungeon. I will have dungeons with 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th level dungeons for sure. But I want a place that the party can go to where they can't get themselves necessarily into that kind of trouble. but that there's still a remote first level area that has more of an exploration feel to it, that maybe people that are not indigenous to the dungeon haven't been here in a long time because of how difficult it is. And I want to reward the party that goes deep into there to find these things without putting them up against the most difficult of the creatures in the dungeon. I'll see if that works in the end, but that's my original thought. So in the module, in room number 2, I believe it is, they roll a 16. And as you can see here, a 16 is a spider crab. Now they have a D4. One of the things that they don't really talk about in this section of the book is that it is up to your discretion what the party can handle. Can the party handle 4 spider crabs? Or is that just going to be a complete annihilation of the party, as a spider crab has AC 7 and is 2 hit dice? I think that is a lot. And I believe you have poison, and poison is extremely dangerous. You can see here on even the second level of the dungeon, there's other things in here that are pretty devastating. You have gray oozes, you have lizard men, which could be, if you're not expecting it, could be difficult. You have snakes, pit vipers, black widows, veterans, zombies. Those are not too bad. Pixies is sort of an odd one for this game, but they do have them. On the third level, they actually have white apes, and white apes, I think, goes to the princes of the Palace of the Silver Princess. In that module, they actually explain where their white apes come from, and that's going to be where my white apes come from. Okay, so the way they talk about it is, on the first room, DM rolls, he got a 5 and he got a 4, so it indicates nothing and nothing. Boom. On the second one, he rolls a wandering monster. On the wandering monster chart, he rolls a 16, which is a spider, crab spider. He gets a 1. He rolls on treasure, and he indicates treasure, and then they have a list for all of those type of treasures that you can find for type U, which is the type of treasure that monster carries. Room 3, they continue on. There's a trap in that room, more treasure. Room 4, they continue on. So I'm going to be doing the same type of thing, except the thing I'm trying to avoid, the room where you go into and there's like 12 goblins. I'm not trying to do that to the party. I think that's too excessive. So here you can see the original map in which they have. And I'm going to keep some of the stuff very traditional. So where the traps were initially, I'm still going to have those traps. The entrance doorway, which they don't have listed with a number, which is in the very south end of the map, we're going to go ahead and put that pit trap there. Then we're going to have trap doors that go up to the ceiling, and if you open it, rubble will fall on you, but then you'll be able to go up into the roof of this, or the second layer of this tower, which ends up being the roof. So we have a total of 3 different accesses to the second level. Each one of those has their own trap variant of it. Then there's actually going to be literally a trap in room 1, a trap in room 2, and then that's going to be it for the traps. Now there will be a secret door, just because we want to have everything kind of encompassing right here, and to let them know that there's more than one way. And I'm going to draw with a marker here the different pathways essentially the party can go. They can go to the left, which is going to take them down room 1, 2, and 3, and then basically it's going to dead end. But the important thing is room 9 looks into room 3 through small windows that look like natural features in the rock. So there's going to be a lookout in that room that can alert the rest of this level to the presence of the party. I have changed what that is in the original book. The original book describes that as 4 goblins that sit basically in a room, and that will alert everyone to the presence of the party when they walk into room 3. I have changed that actually to a shrieker, which is a type of mushroom. And essentially they've put a shrieker inside a cage that faces that wall, and that they can then look into it. There will be shrieker caretakers, which actually provide food and whatnot for the shrieker and keep it fed. this long story of that is there are shriekers on the 3rd level, which is actually an alternate entrance. And if they take that shrieker to those other shriekers on that level, they're actually sort of a family group to sorts, and that they will then continue to live their life and provide warning for anyone that enters through that area in the future. So it's a way that they can have a monster work for them that doesn't normally work for them. I'm treating mushrooms a little bit different, and we'll get into that in the later game, but they're going to have the ability to kind of have Shrieker allies if they reunite the Shrieker with its family group, I'm going to call it, whatever, colony. All right, now if they go to the right, they end up going to room 8, then into a hallway, and then they can access rooms 6s and 7s. Then they continue down the hall, and they got rooms 5 and 4, and then they got the secret room of 9, and then that's it. But in the room 4 is a stairwell down. That's a trap door below a rug, and then that takes them into the next level down, which actually in this situation is actually a prison. It takes them into the prison, but we'll get into that in a minute. So this area is going to be inhabited mostly by goblins and by hobgoblins. That's going to be the primary race that lives here, that occupies, that controls this level. It's not a very big place. It is only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 one way, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 spaces the other way. So basically, it's 45 feet by 45 feet on the interior of this square tower. Now, they've divided up into several rooms, and they have several habitats and that type of stuff. They have water in some areas, so some rooms are drier or wetter than other areas. There's actually a roof that the goblins don't ever access because they can't reach it, and because the rocks fall and hurt them, so they don't access it. They've been told not to. They have hired mercenary hobgoblins, and the reason why I went with the hobgoblins being mercenary is that they are a militant group, and if I were to use hobgoblins in a starter dungeon, I feel like that'd be too much for the party to be able to navigate or be able to access their space. I think that they would be killed basically by these goblins, these hobgoblins, that would be too militant, that would have actual rotations and fortifications and defenses in place, where the goblins are kind of not that organized. And the hobgoblins, their areas will be more organized and more fortified, but where they are, only where they are. Now, they may lead the goblins because they're good militant leaders, but the actual supreme leader of overall of this is not. I'll get more into that in a minute. Okay, goblins. Armor class 6, they have a 1 hit dice -1. They move 60, 20 when they're moving inside dungeons and whatnot, trying to be silent. Their attacks is 1 with a weapon or a d6, essentially. Number of appearing 2d8 or 6 to 60. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and come here and grab 66. And this is how many goblins there's going to be. 43 goblins. Now, 43 goblins in any area looks to be absolutely terrifying. Let me go ahead and close this out. I'm going to make this bigger. This is the fantasy ground version of a whiteboard like notepad thing. I'm going to put stalking the haunted keep. Okay, so goblins. Total goblins. 43. I'm going to say that some are out patrolling. Some are on the first level. And then some are going to, a very small portion are going to be set aside for the second level, because they have a very small footprint actually on the hardest level of this dungeon. They have basically this space is ours because it's the way down into our lair. And then there will be some in the lair. So if I were to divide this up into thirds, 14's close. right? So if we had 14, 28, that'd be 42. So we'll have on patrol 14, first level, it's going to be 14, layer is going to be 15. All right, but the party has killed 4, or will kill 4 on the way there. So they run into a patrol of 4. The planned encounter. Fight 4 on the way to the keep. Okay. Then we have wandering monsters that are out. And there's going to be 5 in each one of those. We'll have 2 more bands of goblins. 2 bands of goblins. And I realize you may not be able to see this very well, and I apologize. I'll try and zoom into the actual writing. So there's going to be 5 goblins plus 1 goblin leader. And I'm using rats as a crossover theme. I'm going to do 2 giant rats. This is going to be slightly harder than the planned one. The planned one is 4 goblins plus 1 hobgoblin leader and 2, I think it was 3 giant rats if I remember right. Okay. That's not what I do. And this is going to be times, actually, we'll just make this times 2. So I'll get to the first layer in a second. I'm going to borrow some from the layer for the second level. So let's have layer defense. On the second level entrance. 5 goblins. Okay. Then we'll have 5 goblins in one area. We have entrance to goblin lair 5, and we're going to do more rats. We're not going to have any hobgoblins here because I think if the hobgoblins were able to access this area, they would just take control. And I'll explain why the goblins can access it and maybe the hobgoblins cannot. Okay. And I'll explain why there's rats everywhere. With goblin. Okay. So where the actual thing is, you're going to have 4 normal goblins. 1 goblin leader. Magic user. And more giant rats. Now, let's go ahead and roll for the first area. We're going to have room Let's go. We have 9 rooms. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And here's 9. Okay, so remember that a result of 1 or 2 is monsters, a result of 3 is a trap, and the result of 4 is special, and the result of 5 or 6 is empty. So let's go ahead and do it. Now I've got a couple things in mind that I am literally pulling from the original module. And that is that room 4 has 4 hobgoblins in it. And 2 prisoners. 4 hobgoblins and 2 human prisoners. Human captives. We'll go with captives. Okay. There's going to be loot. We'll get to that in a second. And that room 9 has a shrieker in it. Shriek. Shrieker. In a cage. Okay. Now, one of the special abilities of a shrieker is that once a shrieker alarms, which it will do when it sees the inside room 3, a random monster will appear in 2d12 rounds, or it has a chance of a random monster appearing in 2d12 rounds, which means that there's that variable that no one knows, including myself, what's going to happen. And I won't roll that until they actually enter room number 3. So in room number 3, I need to go ahead and put alert room 9. There's also some faces in here. I'm going to keep that loot the same too. 3 giant twisted humanoid faces. One has a secret compartment. Okay. So there's that. Now, I'm not going to go into what's in that secret compartment. If you want to find out what happens there, go back and watch the episode where that talks about, and I'll explain what is found there. So this will be kind of, you get the scoop on the backstory, but then to actually get the full story, you have to watch the campaign diaries. All right, so now let's go ahead and roll for number 1. Is it populated with any sort of monster or trap? I think that went off the thing. Got a little zealous with my roll. So room 5. That, if I'm not mistaken, is going to be a special. Nope, empty. So the first one is empty. I'm going to put that in there because this is an actual classification. Now let me see if there's any treasure. It's only on a 1. And I'm going to put no. Okay. Empty and no. Over here, we're going to do the same thing. Now we know there's a trap. It's also empty. I'm keeping that trap from, what was it? I think it was, yep, room 1 and 2, there's both traps. So I'm going to put in here trap on for alert. They use like cans and whatnot to alert the presence of adventurers coming in. And then 2 trap doors. I'm going to use a trap door to second level of tower times 2. Trapped save versus 1 or D4 blunt from falling rocks. Okay. This one here is also an alert trap. Let's go ahead and see if there's anything in there. There was so neither that was both empty and no, because I think I rolled a 6. So very much like the original dungeon. No trap for alert. And then I'm going to take this right here, but instead of making it times 2, it's because that's not what I do. Okay. Yes, yes. Okay, so I got 1 trapdoor going up. And I have put a special loot on the roof that was not there. I've also put a special fight that was not there that will give them some understanding of what else is there. Some hidden. And I haven't wrote this in this little section. And that'll be something you find out if you watch the campaign diary. Because this is like the super secret stuff that if the party doesn't go to it, then they're not going to know. And it could be there for years or found by some random construction worker later. Okay, room number 5. If you remember room number 5 is the one with the altar and it has the beds. And this used to have 12 freaking goblins in it. So I'm not going to let this one be empty. Anything of a result of 5 or 6 will actually be inhabited, because this is like the barracks, basically, of the goblins. But I'm allowing traps, and I'm allowing... traps will also have monsters. So it'll be trapped and monsters. A special will be special. So it's going to be 2. There will be goblins. I'm going to put... we have 14 goblins to put there. What I'm going to do, I'm not going to put the number of goblins there. I'm going to put the rest of the goblins there. I will not put 14 there, though. But we'll see how many we get there based upon the rest of the dungeon. But I will roll for loot. Is there any sort of special loot? And the answer would be 3, which 1, 2, or 3 on that is yes, there is actually loot in this. So let me go back over here to the book, and I'll roll this part out. And then, so the first level has a d6 times 100 silver pieces, 50% chance of d6 times 10 gold pieces, 5% chance of gems, and a 2% chance of jewelry, and a 2% of any one magic item. Okay, so let me go ahead and get back over here. We're going to do a d6 times 100 for the silver. So 200 silver. I'm going to put treasure. Oops. 200 silver piece. Do not want this. Go away. Sorry. Close. Thank you. I need to roll a percentile to see. That's not what I do either. Give me a second here. I'm going to go here to percentile. 50% chance. We have a 9, so we do have a d6 times 10 gold. We have 60 gold. Now we need to roll for gems, a 5% chance. Close enough. 7 is pretty doggone close. I'm going to say, due to the importance of this room, yes, there are gems. Now, there's going to be a D6 gems. 3 gems. So I'm going to use gem 1, parentheses, comma, gem 2, parentheses, and gem 3. Now I do my own special gems. I'm going to use the value mount as an approximate for the value of it, and then I'll go ahead and figure out what the gems are themselves to personalize it to my campaign. Let's go over here and roll, get down to the treasure here, find out what that would be. If I can get to where they're at. See your contents treasure. Okay, gems. So roll percentile. That one I do. Roll a 14 on the low side. That gives you a 10 gold piece gem. So I'm going to go over here and put a 10 in there so I know. Put a GP just so I'm not confused. Next one. 31 takes you into the next bracket, which is going to be a 50 gold piece gem. And I will smooth all this out in the end anyways. And the next one. 50. Takes me into the third bracket, which is a 100 gold piece gem. Okay. Now I need to roll to see if there is any jewelry. Jewelry is the money maker. This is going to be a 2%, but I'm going to give it a 5. Oof, 19 is close. Now, magic items. I'm also going to give a little higher roll on this one. Okay, we have a 2% chance. Again, I'm going to give this a 5% chance of any one magic item. Come on, low numbers. 91. Where was that for the gems? That would have been insane. That would have been a lot. Let me see what a 91 would have been if we had rolled that for the gems. Yes, even I do these things where I wonder what that would be. That would be a 500 gold piece gem on the very top end. The next level of gem after that is 1,000, just so you know. All right. So now we have that. We have the treasure. We have the gems within it. I'll get into what exactly each one of those are. We're going to go to room number 6. We roll a d6 to see if we have something. 1 and 2 is going to be a monster. We're going to roll a d20. See if we agree with this. 13. 13 is a giant shrew. Okay. So I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do giant rats and I'm going to do goblins. So let's do a d6 of each. We have 4 goblins. Goblins times 4. Let's give it a percentage chance to see if there's a hobgoblin there. I don't need to do that. Let's just actually do the percentile roll. We're going to say there's a 25% chance of a hobgoblin. So we do not have a hobgoblin. Now we're going to do 5 giant rats. Wow. 5. Okay. Now let's go ahead and roll for other loot. They apparently do not have anything else, so no. Okay, so that room initially did not have any goblins, and this takes us down to 10 goblins. I'm actually going to get rid of this here because I don't have any of that. I'm going to take this down because we got rid of these too. Go to room number 7. This one initially did not have anything in it as well. And it now has an empty room just like it should. And loot is completely empty. So it is empty and no. This one here is going to be room number 8. This one was the one that was filled with water. It's going to have a 3, which I want to say was trap. Yes, trap is 3. So let's just sort of do a little bit of thought process here. Ooh, it's water. I'm going to say in this water, there not only is there that statue, but there's going to be a 10-foot deep hole from the water erosion. So I'm going to put not a trap, I'm going to put a sinkhole. We're going to label it as a trap because it is technically a trap, but it's not a planned trap. It is a one created by nature. Sink hole 10 feet deep. Now, have the goblins gone and put anything in there? Let's give that like a, again, I don't need to do it that way. Let's do that with a 10% chance. Oof. I was very hopeful when I saw that 0. All right, so there's nothing there. Now let's do a D6 rolling for loot. And I'm going to give it a little higher chance of loot. We'll go 1, 2, or 3 instead of a 1 or 2. We have loot either way. So let's go ahead and get back to the thing. We know there's going to be silver pieces in there. So we have a D6 times 100 silver pieces, 400 silver pieces. We have a 50%, again with that thing, a 50% chance of gold pieces. We do not have gold pieces. Let me get back to the thing. We have a 5% chance of gems. Absolutely not. We have a, we're going to go with, I'm going to be a little generous, 5% chance of jewelry. And since we're not getting anything else, I'm going to go 5% chance of magic item. Absolutely not. So it is literally 400 silver pieces that are strewn throughout the bottom of this pit. Someone with a bag of treasure fell in there and died. Potentially. Now I am going to roll to see if there's anything in here beyond the shrieker in the cage. I'm just going to roll for the treasure. It is a secret room. I could see them storing things in there. Yes. So we're going to roll here. Actually, we're going to roll, see how many hundreds of silver pieces they have. They've stored 500 silver pieces. So there's going to be a chest with 500 SP. We're going to see if there's a 50% chance of gold. And there's a 6%, so yes. So this is going to be 20 gold. And now I'm going to go ahead and see if there's, again, I don't need to do it that way, percentage chance of gems. No. Percentage chance of jewelry, 5% again. Nope. And percentage chance of magic item. Absolutely not. Okay. So this is going to be hidden by basically the goblins from their superiors. And this is stuff they've put aside, essentially, because the goblin superiors are never going to go in that room. Let's go back to room number 4, where we have the hobgoblins and we have the thing. Let me come over here to my cards real quick. And what type of treasure do hobgoblins have? They have treasure type D. Okay. We're going to get into these a little bit. So, the goblins themselves had a treasure type C. We'll get to that into the layer. And we got treasure type D for here. So, this is how many thousands of copper if it was an actual layer. We don't have a layer of hobgoblins. So I'm going to break this down that they're going to have 1/6 of this treasure. Because this is essentially... Now, alright, I'm going to say there's a total of 7 hobgoblins. We'll just go 1/3. So we're going to take all these numbers by 1/3. And that's what these hobgoblins will keep. Because this is basically this mercenary band of 7 hobgoblins is going to have, this is what they're going to have. So they have a 10% chance of copper pieces. Again, I don't need to do it that way. 49. They do not have copper. They have a 15% chance of silver. Nope. They have no chance of electrum. They have a 60% chance of gold. They do have a gold. This is a D6 times 1,000. They have 5,000 gold. Wow. Okay. But they're only going to get 1/3 of that. All right. So they have 1,667 GP. Now they have no chance of platinum. They have a 30% chance of gems. I'm going to say yes. They have a D8 worth of gems. I'm going to take again this down to, I'm going to say 2 gems. So they have gem 1 and gem 2. And then let's go ahead and roll that percentile to see what we get. For gem 2, 39. That is going to be the what was I literally rolled them in order last time. Where are they at? It's a 30 gold piece gem. Because it was 45 was the next level up. And for gem 1, $95. That is the 1,000 gold piece gem. They have a magnificent gem in there. Now they have a 30% also chance of jewelry. No. Most unfortunate. Then they have a chance at magic items and art, if I'm not mistaken. 33. What's their chance? 15. So they do not get any magic items. Okay. Now, just so you are aware, when I take gold value like this, I'm not going to give them 1,667 gold. I'm going to then take that in percentages and kind of break that down into silver and copper pieces, because I've never liked the just pure aspect of you have gold, but you have no silver and no copper, or platinum, but you have none of the other ones, right? So I'm going to break that down, but this is what the total of the value will be. Now let's go ahead and go into just the goblins. Okay, so again, we know that there is this layered. I'm going to go ahead and roll. The goblins are going to have their own loot here. I'm not going to, because I'm rolling the goblin horde as an entire horde, I'm going to say that there's no specific treasure on the goblins themselves, unless they had like an empty room or they had like the treasure, whatever. You get the idea. So that one, yes, there is a treasure on this one. So this room has room treasure. Go back here. So we have a D6. So we have a D6 times 100 silver. So we have 100 silver pieces. Then we have a 50% chance at gold. 53, I'm going to say yes. That's 30 gold. And then we have 5% on gems. That's not what I do. Nope. And we're going to have 5% on jewelry. 18 is not going to be quite low enough. And then magic items, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. I'm going to do one more roll, and I'm going to give it a 25% chance that any art from the original keep survived and was brought down here by the goblins. Ugh, I said 25, but it's really close. Okay. And there's no magic items in that room. Okay. We'll see if there's any other art in any of the other rooms. But each one of these rooms are going to add an art element to this. We're going to have that's the goblin defense room. That's not even the layer defense. This is the entrance to the goblin. So no, they do not have anything there. And no. Now, the rest of the horde will be here. So it's not a question of if, it's a question of what's there. So, percentile. Is there any silver pieces? We get here to treasure. They have type C. There's a 20% chance of a D12. There's a D12. Finally get that roll at D12. Times 1,000 copper pieces. There is a copious amount of copper. Nope, that's actually... Then, type C, there's a 30% chance of a D4 silver. Nope. Then we have a 10% chance of electrum. Oof. I'm going to go with yes. So D4 times 1,000. So 3,000 electrum. And then we have no chance of gold and no chance of platinum. 25% chance of jewelry. Or let's go gems first. We have a 50, nope, and 25% chance of jewelry. Absolutely not. They will not. I'm going to give the next roll a bonus since it was so far off. And now they have a 10% chance of any 2 magic items. We'll make that a 20% chance. Not that it would have mattered. Okay. Oh, and we're going to do... I'm going to double the chances of art down here to a 50% chance. We're having art, doggone it. I'm going to have a D4 art pieces, 3. Art 1. Art 2. And art 3. I will not let dice rolls dictate that there is no art when I really want art. I'm going to roll a d6 here for art. Or percentile for art on this one too. Even though there's no treasure. And 4, yes, there's a d4 art here as well. 3 more art here. Art 1. Art 2. Art 3. I'll get into what those art themselves are. I'm going to treat them like they are jewelry, though. Just so you know, there should be 1,000 gold worth of items in the type C and 4,000 gold in the type D. So literally, I think the goblins came out really close to that. I'm going to treat it as jewelry because I don't know how else to treat it. No, let's treat it as gems. Jewelry can be too much of its own thing. $90. That's going to be a 500 gold piece art. That's going to be the small one, which is 10. It's a 10 gold piece art from the Rodemus Keep. One might ask why. I think it's for nostalgia and his history of it. When they talk about it, this is going to be 100 GP. And I think that's very important. Art number 1 in the second room is going to be an 87. That's going to be a 500 gold piece art. And when they tell stories or they look upon this in the future, another 500 gold piece art, they'll have stories to tell, which is why I want it here. And a 10 gold piece art. Alright, so now this is the goblin side. Alright guys, so I'm going to go and do this again, but I'm going to do it with the ghouls, and I'm going to do it with the random encounters that you might find in the third or the alternate entrance into this dungeon complex, I guess you could say. So I'm going to do a part 2 and a part 3 probably on this stalking the dungeon. So if you want to see more videos like this, please let me know down in the comments below. Please hit the like if you feel like this is worth the time and effort that was put into it. And I appreciate your viewing it, and let others know if you feel like this would help them in their campaigns. Thank you and have a great day.